So Matt, you were here this spring, helped us plant, right?
Yeah, we were here at our crew planting corn.
Yeah, you really kind of set this up, right? This is Azteca, your company you work for, kind of sets up this plot.
Right, this is the first part that we use to decide what hybrids to put on our list. As we go through this process and we plant all these different hybrids together in the same field in the same spot, and if we like what we see, then we raise more next year, and we will actually cook the second sample and turn it into flour and see how it reacts to our process.
Okay, well, this is one of the hybrids here that we're testing. I'm not sure I'm too fond of this one.
Well, sometimes that happens.
We'll see how it goes. I mean, obviously this is one stock. The ears get a little bit bigger, but it was a tough year this year. It's a tough year every year in one sense, but this was especially tough.
This year, it was rough everywhere. I've never seen so many guys that were ready to give up in June. It just rained and rained and rained and wouldn't stop. And just unreal the amount of moisture we had this year.
Okay, so we got the first 6 rows in the combine right now. What are we going to do with this?
We're going to weigh it, we're going to check it for yield, we're going to check it for moisture, and we're going to check it for test weight here in the field.
Okay.
So,
now what is test weight?
Test weight is the unit you use to figure out the amount of pounds in a bushel. A standard bushel is 56 pounds.
Right.
But it can range from 54 to, I've seen as high as 63.
So a bushel technically is a volume.
Right. It's
right. Like a bushel basket.
It was the original term they used.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's supposed to be 56 pounds, but some corn weighs heavier than that.
Correct. A lot of our white corn's run into the 60s.
That's a good thing to have higher test weight.
Right, usually.
Okay, so we have a weigh wagon here, and this weigh wagon is going to determine exactly how many pounds that we got on that 6 rows.
Correct.
For the entire length of the field.
Right.
I think I saw one guy around here with a measuring wheel.
Yeah. So we measure, we know there's 6 rows, we know they're 30-inch rows, we got to get the length of the field, and then we can figure out what, if it's 1/10 of an acre or 2/10 or whatever, and then we'll adjust our yield accordingly so that it comes out to bushels per acre like we would normally measure a field.
Okay, so we measure the entire area that we've harvested, we figure out how many pounds we get off of that, we do some other tests. You said moisture, test weight, and then of course yield. So the starch content, we don't do the testing here, right?
Correct, that's done back at the lab.
Okay.
The guys will actually cut the kernels open and remove the starch and weigh it.
Okay, so you'll keep samples from each of the different hybrids.
Correct.
In this line.
Yes, and compare them across the whole. Every hybrid we've looked at today will get compared to each other.
Now, there's a lot of variability in the field. I mean, we go, I don't know, probably 700 feet this direction and 1,300 feet that direction. Do we have any way to know about field variability between these hybrids?
Well, we can look at soil maps. We can look at your tile lines. We usually don't look at that unless something really strange happens. If we come in here and one hybrid was 60 bushel better than everything else, then we would start looking at that to see if there was maybe a reason why that certain hybrid was so much better.
Okay.
If it got right over a tile.
Do we have any like check or comparison?
Yeah, we use the same hybrid that we're already accepting at Azteca. In this field, we're using Pioneer 1442, and it's about every 5 or 6 varieties. We put that back in to compare it to.
Okay.
And we'll take that back and look at it.
So that'll help us to know from the far end on this end to the far end on that end. We might change them a little bit to indicate that the check was different. Okay. Right. Okay, that makes good sense. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
So Scott's doing the official moisture test right now for this particular variety. Rhonda, which variety is this?
This is our check. This is 1442.
Pioneer 1442.
This will tell us moisture and test weight.
It drops it in there at a consistent rate, Christy.
Oh, okay.
And that way you're not changing the amount of weight you get in by packing it, by dumping it in harder or dumping it in easier.
Yeah.
And then when he scraped that off the top, hopefully he didn't pack it down any further, and that's how he gets an accurate test.
So it's 16.1 moisture and 62.1 test weight.
Hey, we're here with my friend Scott. Scott's been supplying Pioneer hybrid seed corn for our family for 20 years probably.
Yeah.
Is that about accurate?
Yeah, pretty close.
Wow, it's been a long time.
Yep.
Now before that, my dad sold the Pioneer hybrid in the area, so there's a lot of history with Pioneer hybrid in our family. And I just wanted to ask you a little about what we're doing here. You know, we're here. We've got some folks from Azteca here, so in a sense, Azteca's doing this plot. But why are you here?
Well, we brought the weigh wagon out to catch weights and compare yields on all the hybrids.
Okay, so Pioneer, you do a lot of plots, right?
Yep.
I mean, just on regular farms, just like this, right? I mean, they're farmer-ran plots. You just come out and do the weighing.
Well, yeah. I mean, sometimes we're weighing like a split planter comparison where they've just got 2 hybrids in a field, and then sometimes we've got a big plot, you know, with multiple entries like we've got here today.
So what goes into these weights? I mean, I see 3,268 pounds on the cart right now.
Right.
How do we figure out the yield?
A formula that we figure it with, we take 100 minus the moisture times the weight times a factor that converts it down to dry bushels, and then we divide it by the length and the width.
The area,
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we do account for the moisture of the grain.
Yep.
At the same time here. So, but that's a key for your customers as well, right? Is what the moisture content is for this corn?
Yep. Yeah, I mean, different hybrids are going to dry down different, and that's something that everybody's interested in.
Okay. A lot of our viewers don't understand the basics here. So we're looking for a specific moisture level so that the corn can be stored, right? And that is considered, well, what is the percentage of moisture that's dry? It's
15.
Some of these hybrids, you say they're going to be different moisture levels. Is that just an attribute of the hybrid, or is there?
Well, it could be an attribute of how the hybrid dries down, and then there's different maturity hybrids. I mean, some of them take longer to reach maturity, so all planted the same day, they're not all going to dry down the same.
Okay. This particular test was a Beck's hybrid, and its weight is only about 2/3 of the previous test. So I guarantee you it's not one that's going to make the cut on our property.
Don't get me in trouble with the Beck's people, because I got to work with them too.
Maybe on somebody else's property, a long way from here.
Amazing how much difference there is in them.
Yeah.
This is what I have to watch to compare them here. See, each one of those strips, you can see that one really bad red one here, and that one, that was 101-day corn that was for an experiment.
Oh, okay.
So that the yield didn't work out, but it may get their hard corn that they're after. That's a really early corn for us. That's why we don't grow it here regularly.
Okay. Where would they grow that? In the south?
Farther north, where they have a shorter growing season.
Further north, okay. That makes sense. Aren't you glad you don't have to do every field like this?
Well, we'd have to allow more time if we did.
Yeah. A lot more time, it seems like.
Yeah.
See me flying a drone around you?
Terry waved at it, but I didn't see it.
One of the questions that's probably come to mind is, why are we harvesting with only half the header? Why only 6 rows instead of the full 12 that this combine can handle? Due to space constraints, we only planted 6 rows of each hybrid in this plot. So we'll harvest each hybrid separately so it can be weighed and tested. This approach really slowed down the harvest overall. Not only were we taking only 6 rows, the combine had to stop at each end to unload so that we didn't involve the grain cart. We unload directly on the weigh wagon at each end of the field. Scott brought 2 weigh wagons to make it a little bit more efficient. If we'd had only 1 wagon, we would have had to driven the combine all the way empty from one end to the other after each 6 rows. When you're watching this drone footage, notice that you can see some weeds in the corn once in a while, and you can also see some space where there just isn't much corn at all, like right there on the left. Both of those problems were caused by too much moisture right after planting. These inconsistencies make it very difficult to know if the yield data that we gather is actually accurate. We can accurately measure the weight, but there's really no way to ensure that each hybrid has had consistent growing conditions. A wet spot early in the spring might have affected one 6 rows, in other words one hybrid, much more than the next one. From this angle you can see some lighter colored lines at a 90-degree angle to the combine. These are showing where the drainage tile were installed last fall.
Function?
It's plugged up from the trash we're gonna empty on the other side when we come back the other way.
No.
While we definitely see inconsistencies in the growing conditions, you can also see the difference in the actual hybrids from these drone shots. It's often easy to identify the 6 rows associated with each hybrid. For example, look at those 6 right beside the combine. They're taller and just look generally healthier than the ones he's harvesting now. This view is a great illustration of those differences. About 12 to 24 rows from the left end there, a lot of it fell down or just really didn't have much on it at all. Randall thought maybe the raccoons had gotten into it, but why only that one or maybe those 2 hybrids? Meanwhile, look at that guy, out standing in his field. Get it? I hope so. I wouldn't want you to think I was getting all full of arrogance. Okay, I think I'll be quiet for a few moments and let you enjoy the drone shots here near sunset.
So we got it all harvested, Matt.
Yeah, we got our half done.
So what'd you learn?
Well, most of what we're going to learn is actually going to take place back at the lab. We're going to take these samples back and cut them open and grind them out and take the starch out and see what is in there that we like. All I can do here is yield.
And honestly, yield's not your priority.
Yield's not my #1 priority, but it does have to be competitive.
Yeah, it better be competitive.
Yeah, it better be.
Otherwise, we're not going to plant it.
Exactly. So it's got to be in the ballpark. It may not be the #1, but it's got to be kind of in the top 5.
Okay. Okay. Now, what's Azteca corn used for?
At the plant, all we make is the flour.
Okay.
But we make flour that goes into tortillas and taco shells and taco chips. We make, I think, about 40 different types of flour that go into various different products.
40 different types of corn flour.
Corn flour. That's all we deal with.
Not
corn.
wheat flour.
Right.
So we saw a couple of hybrids that seem to be better than the others from a yield standpoint.
Right.
So, but you're saying you might reject those because that.
Yeah, just because they yield good doesn't mean that they're going to make good starch, which makes good flour. We won't know that till we get done.
Okay, that's interesting. So you said you make 40 some different types of corn flour.
Right.
Any of that flour go to some place that my viewers would recognize?
We provide a lot of the yellow flour goes to Taco Bell. And then our own retail brand's Mission. Brown bag, Mission chips. That's actually what our company does.
Mission chips.
Mission chips, yeah.
And then you do provide for Taco Bell. Now that's the hard shells, or?
Yeah, the yellow hard shell, the flour comes from us.
Okay, that's really cool. How long will it take for us to find out the results of this? We probably will never find out, but how long will it take you guys to decide?
Take us a couple of weeks. By the time we get done doing all the guys back at the central lab will do this in between their other jobs. And then they'll put all the data together, and then myself and a couple other people will look at it and decide where to go on from here.
Okay. Okay, so from our standpoint, will we have one of these tests where we test only a couple of hybrids, or are you wanting to always do, 30 or more?
Well, we did 20 this year on my side and 20 this year on Randall's side, roughly. So that's about what I look at normally, 15 to 20 hybrids a year. The other test plot,
he has one in Indiana and one in Illinois.
Except this year it got kind of drowned out.
So this is it. This is the only plot.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see the starch content, see if it's any different.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole reason I did it, was because the theory at the time was that the longer season hybrids were packing on more soft starch and getting softer, and that's not what we wanted. We wanted more hard starch, so I was like...
But so far you haven't found that, even in your previous tests?
We're getting better. We've definitely made an improvement on what the hybrids we had a couple years ago.
Okay.
But it's because the hybrids change every couple of years, you got to stay up. You can't just say, well, we're going to stick with 1442, because it's not going to be out there forever.
Right.
So you got to keep up with everybody.
1442 certainly doesn't look like a winner today. It looks like a good solid hybrid, Scott, but it doesn't look like the winner.
May not be.
But it's really been consistent across the whole plot.
Yeah, it's been a good top performer, consistent.
It's probably been in the upper third.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Or,
And we get a lot of that. That's one of our big numbers for Pioneer.
Matt, Scott, I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of explain to us what was going on here today. It's kind of confusing to a lot of our viewers what's really going on, but appreciate it. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time on Tractor Time with Tim.